So last week we ran into some scheduling problems, but we had a couple of viewers who were concerned about the $9 to $10 billion surplus and wondering what the progress has been made in making decisions about what to do about that surplus. And the concerns range from, um, you know, concerned about perhaps sending too much back in terms of tax relief or spending too much money. And also, some viewers were concerned about the issue of, do we really know how much surplus there really is? How much of it is one-time money? What might be happening in the future? Lots of really complicated issues in dealing with that surplus. And viewers were wondering what the status of those conversations are. Representative Lucero, I don't think we've started with you today. Let's put you up to bat with that difficult question, and you can take the ball and run with it. And then we'll go to Representative Hausman.
Well, one of the principles that I learned as a former city council member was government has obviously services that it must provide, and those services must be paid for. And and to be able to pay for those, there obviously has to be a method of raising revenue. But any amount that's above and beyond that is overtaxation. And last year, we fully funded state government, and we increased funding to record levels in Minnesota's history. And so even above and beyond state government being 100% completely fully funded, we are approaching a $10 surplus. That surplus represents overtaxation of by or on hardworking Minnesota families and businesses across the state. And so what we need to do is this money needs to go back to those who overpaid. And so right now, my concern is not shoring up government, not making sure that there's a rainy day fund for government. My number one concern is the hundreds or over 1,000 constituents who've contacted me that are hurting because of the inflation that we're experiencing in the this Obama or Biden era. I'm sorry, rather the inflation that they're experiencing. The one other area of tax would be with the housing pressures that are happening. The taxable value for tax payable next year are increasing anywhere I've seen 10 to 40%. And it's really going to create an even greater strain on people's budgets. Their budgets are not increasing 40%. But whether it be the cost of bread, milk, eggs, whether it be the property taxes you're going to pay next year, whether it be the cost of gasoline, this money that we've overcollected needs to go back to those that are overpaid. That's my priority.
Representative Hausman, your thoughts on the surplus and how to handle it?
Yes, my huge frustration here is that we haven't educated the public about this. We should constantly be saying projected surplus, projected surplus. In other words, a group of economists sat down and they looked at the next 2 years and they said, what do we think will happen in the next 2 years in revenue and expenses? And their point is, and by the way, their projection was made before Russia attacked Ukraine. That's when their projection was made, their projected surplus. And the person who learned this lesson about what it means to have a projected surplus was Jesse Ventura. Remember when he ran for office, and I think we talked about boatloads of money, and he was going to give it back, and then he became governor, and he said, oh, that's not money in the bank? You mean I would have to borrow money to give it back? Yes, that's right. You'd have to borrow money to give it back. Oh, well, then I guess we can't do that. That's the lesson we should have learned then. It's a projected surplus. If everything goes in the next 2 years the way those economists have predicted, we would have that amount of revenue over expenses. Yes, there is a certain amount of cushion in a bank at this point, but it is by no means a dependable amount that we can spend freely without concern for the future. So a projected surplus, that's what it is, and it just means we've got to be paying attention very, very carefully.
Senator Dahms.
Well, I think Representative Lucero hit it on the head. We got a $9.3 billion surplus, and of that, approximately 40% is considered to be one-time money. So we're still looking at a $5 point some billion surplus. Now, as Representative Hausman alluded to, that there is a projected surplus. But then let's be realistic about it. There is a projected surplus for the next couple of bienniums past this. So if we want to talk about projected, that's fine, but then let's look further out into it, not just this projection. Let's look at the projection for the next two bienniums. We still have a projected surplus. So with that said, I think that we do need to give some of this money back to the people that put the money in. It's kind of interesting, but only in government is it unfair to give the money back to the people that gave you the money. But with that said, I do think we need to look at giving part of that back, and we have a bill that we've introduced on the Senate floor, and it has been passed off the Senate floor, and that bill would decrease the income tax at the various levels, starting at the base level, and it would decrease that considerably. And so, as Representative Lucero talked about, inflation now is really eating into people's pocketbooks. And one of the last surveys I had seen, they're projecting a family of four for the basics. It's about $100 a week. Well, that's about $5,200 a year. And I can tell you that the income of these folks folks' incomes are not coming up equal to that type of inflation. So with that said, we probably are going to need to do something. And so let's reduce some of these taxes we're taking in based on that projection.
Senator Cwodzinski.
Yeah, we had a really spirited debate last week on the floor, or 2 weeks ago, whether we should give it back in the way of a waltz check, so to speak, in one-time money, or give permanent tax relief to people. And it was. I found it a pretty interesting debate. But basically, what Alice was saying about projected surplus, and no one has mentioned yet that I heard anyways, that the surplus doesn't factor in inflation just because of the way we figure the surplus out. So, and when the economists talked about the budget surplus. At that time, this was just a few months ago, inflation was at 2%. And now with it being around 7 to 8%, I think we need to take most of this money and put it away into a rainy day fund. And just because I think we're in perhaps the coming couple bienniums, we're going to be dealing with pretty interesting situation, and I'd hate to pass this on to the people that are going to follow Alice and in her after she retires, and give them this burden of trying to balance the budget given a looming deficit. So, but given that we do have a surplus, one of the things I've been trying to push hasn't gone anywhere, but I did introduce a bill that in 2003 the funding peaked for education for our schools, and we haven't kept up. We're about 16% behind where funding was in 2003, and I'd love to take about $1.5 billion of these dollars and bring 2003 funding for education to the levels that we could do in 2022 with just about maybe an eighth of the, or 1/8 of the of the surplus. So that'd be what I would do with the money.